Alright, so hey, what's up? So I've been talking about this for a while, but we're finally going to review Jorja Smith's debut album, her follow-up to her 2016 EP project, 11. Lost and Found is a solo project by Jorja Smith. I saw in an interview that most of these songs she's written when between the ages of 16 and 20, and there are going to be like no features on here. So if you haven't heard of Jorja Smith, she's been on Drake's project, she's been on a Kali Uchis song, she's been everywhere lately. And she's also been kind of like that Twitter muse that people like put up photos of her because she's so pretty. So let's get right into it. The first track is Lost and Found, produced by Charlie J. Perry.
On the ground, fantasize that you come around. Why do we all fall down with the thought
That was Lost and Found by Jorja Smith, produced by Charlie J. Perry. And if we were to talk about the sound for like Lost and Found, it's really soulful and it really focuses on Jorja. The instrumentals are just kind of like back in the background. Jorja Smith is in the spotlight. And I think rightfully so, because Jorja Smith is a really good singer and you can hear that. You can hear the emotion in this song. It's definitely one of those just swooners. The cadence is just nice, slow, dreamy. And Jorja herself is singing about young love. From what I understood, it's kind of like a love story where she fell in love with someone and how she's having her own gripes, how she's struggling to see if they'll actually stay around, if this love is real. And she feels it's so real that they could get the job done, like they could get married. But then it turns out, we find out at the end of verse 2 that she's gone now. She has left the relationship. What she's almost realizing is maybe she wrote this when she was older or after like a first love or something. We realize with the closing line is, I'm in love with the thought of you. This love wasn't what she thought it was, and she was just in love with the thought of someone being there. Hence the title of Lost and Found. Maybe she lost herself in this love and then found herself when she got out of it. A good track, definitely a couple of goosebumps, especially during like the now falsetto part. But let's move on to the next song, Teenage Fantasy. So that was Teenage Fantasy. If we were to talk about the song like sonically, the instrumental's way louder than the last song. We've got these like really it's really loud boom bap from these snares, and then we have these like ghostly hums behind Jorja's very emotional and passionate voice, all accompanied by like these rolling keys that, and this, her passionate voice just kind of echoing the reflections and realizations she has in this song. If we were to talk about Teenage Fantasy, according to some interviews I read, she wrote this song when she was like 16. And if you listen to this song, Jorja's talking about a first love, like probably during high school or something, and how she would like talk about them at the lunch tables, how that's all she would talk about. Family members warned her, do you actually love this boy, or you're infatuated with the idea of love? And so by the end of this song, we realize that Jorja Smith herself has realized love isn't what she thought it was. Like this teenage fantasy, do we really want it? We all want a teenage fantasy, want it when we can't have it. When we got it, we don't seem to want it. So it just kind of echoes her point further in the first song that we fall in love with love, not the person. And the minute love gets hard, a lot of us realize that this teenage fantasy of love that we have when we're younger just sort of disappears. Great song, I love the subject matter. I think it's great advice for anybody who's listening it, especially younger generation who still haven't gone through, you know, your first love or whatever. It's good advice. But let's move on to the next song, Where Did I Go?
maybe this fate was overdue. Teach yourself to be still. A little man, I left you on your own with the whispers on your phone. So this is goodbye, goodbye.
So that was was Where Did I Go by Jorja Smith, produced by Galanesa. Basically, she's talking about leaving someone in a past relationship, and she talks about how, where did I go, when did the sun rise, how did it fall, got lost in the moonlight. So she's describing how the ups and downs of this relationship just kind of got blurred, that she just forgot about it. So she realized that her love was on hold and decided to say goodbye and break up with them. I really like this song. It was just as upbeat as Teenage Fantasy. I really like the drums that kicked in and then the bass that kicked in after like the first verse. There was a lot of good things going on for it. Again, very soulful but very upbeat. Jorja kind of kept it chill on the vocals. She wasn't as loud as in like in Teenage Fantasy or as kind of like croonful and Lost and Found, but this was still a very good happy medium of the two. I really like this song. I think Jorja Smith and the instrumental both put in equal amounts of good things to listen to and look forward for. Like the sounds and the songwriting were both very good, and the vocals as well. In contrast to like Teenage Fantasy, where it kind of felt like the vocals were lacking and the instrumentals were a little bit more on the highlight. So let's move on to the next song, February 3rd. I've heard this one before and I really liked it. I think it was a single right before Lost and Found, like the week before, but let's listen.
Life outside I didn't know. For me, why don't you lose yourself? For me, lose yourself. For me, it's eyes don't see. Why don't you lose yourself and playing games?
So that was February 3rd by Jorja Smith, produced by Jason Pounds, Jeff Kleinman, and Michael Uzawuru. This sound-wise has changed from like the last three songs. We have like at the beginning a music box, but then later we hear like these reverby synth keys and then these like meow meow, these like sample meows or echoes of something. It's a lot more of a modern sound than that like old soulful sound she's going for. Like it's a new take on it and I really like it. And this song, also songwriting wise, flips the script because instead of being the strong young woman she found herself becoming after she realized what love really was, she is almost asking her partner why they don't stay, why they don't compromise, why they don't fall in love as deeply as she's falling in love with them. So it's a track of vulnerability. I really like the songwriting. I really like her vocals. It's not as wordy as the other songs. It's more of just a really catchy chorus that you can literally lose yourself in. And Jorja Smith has a fantastic voice, especially during like the me parts and when she's repeating lose. It's just the vibe of the song. The highlight is definitely Jorja's singing and her high notes, her like falsettos. Probably my favorite track right now, easily, hands down. But let's move on to the next song, On Your Own. That was On Your Own, produced by Jason Pounds. I didn't like this song. It didn't have like a proper build-up. It just felt like Jorja Smith went from just singing and then all of a sudden she was hitting these high notes and then there's these really like loud 808s for no reason, and they felt like they drowned her out to the point that you couldn't understand what she was saying. Like, it sounded like a song you would hear in a concert, but not in a good way. It just has that sound. It doesn't have that feel of a good concert song. She's talking about On Your Own. Her ex-partner is probably now on his own because she left him. I'm getting that based off of the title and some of the lyrics. The only like decent part of this song was the chorus. But again, like I said, just the cacophony of all the sounds was just not, it wasn't working. Let's move on to the next one, a song called TheOne.
Didn't think I'd give for love. I'm not trying to let you in. And I need someone.
That was TheOne, produced by Joel Compass. Definitely the most passionate song I've listened to off this album so far. The build up here is a lot better than whatever they were trying to work on in the last song. There's actually a build up here. Although the chorus is a little awkward when she gets into the meet someone part, it still works. It's not the greatest, but it works. I like how they start adding in all these instruments at the end, the drums and the strings that come in. I'm a sucker for strings. That just added another layer to this song that you could just really get into. And this, I feel like Jorja Smith with strings, I haven't heard it before, and now that I have heard it, I want more. Like Jorja Smith with strings and all like this big orchestra, that'd be awesome. This is kind of her going back to how reflecting on the lessons in love she's like learned in the past few years. She's still like relatively young. She's 21. I can imagine she probably wrote this recently from the sound of it and everything, like the passion behind it. This sounds like a recent realization or something. Maybe she recorded it like a year ago, or maybe I'm wrong, but it sounds like this is Jorja Smith now, not Jorja Smith like in high school or with a past lover. But this, probably up there on my top tracks right now. Let's move on to the next song, Wandering Romance. So that was Wandering Romance, produced by Felix Joseph. Again, it sounds like Jorja Smith. The theme of this album has been love. It's been obvious from the get-go. And seems like she's saying the pain you go through love, and how no one sees the pain that lurks like behind the front you're making, you know what I mean? She's talking about a romance she's had recently where she questions whether they actually love her or not, hence the name Wandering Romance. From what it sounds like, her ex-partner cheated on her or something like that, based on the refrain, "Tell me why you can't control the feelings you desire, burning all my bridges as you set my walls on fire." Maybe feelings her ex-lover can't control are, being promiscuous, cheating on her, etc. Burning all my bridges, I usually set my walls on fire. Like that might have a sexual connotation, like, from walls on fire. Do I need I say more? Burning all my bridges, maybe she's just so infatuated with like the physical aspect of their relationship that she's not keeping up with her friends. But other than that, it's just her just getting this out here, talking about how she wants to be loved and how she's not getting that, and she's going through this like painful experience. The track itself sonically is okay. Again, I feel like she does this thing where it comes to the build-up, but it's a little weird, a little awkward, like she's still trying to figure it out. But this song has definitely just been like, it's not bad, it's not fantastic, it's passable in my opinion. I really like the watery guitars, I'll give it that, especially during the after the fourth chorus, I think, there's third chorus. Let's move on to the next song.
Sirens coming, you better not run, 'cause the sirens not coming for you. Back home, when you at G, answer your phone. Who's got my back?
Is Jorja rapping?
Think I have to get out of that. Not long ago, you were me to the shook, 'cause you're the shook one. Hand to the tool as you question your friendship has men like you gonna make.
So that was Blue Lights, produced by Engine Ears and Joyce. Blue Lights was not what I was expecting. I was expecting another love song. This is a story. I want to turn those blue lights into strobe lights, not blue flashing lights, maybe fairy lights. Jorja Smith is telling a story about someone who gets wrapped into the wrong crowd, I guess, or wrong group of people. And Blue Lights is talking about a protagonist who is running away from the police when in reality they haven't at first done anything wrong. So the chorus has this cool dichotomy of this person wants to help you and then this other person's blaming you. Like it's saying, I want to turn those blue lights into flashing lights, like they're having fun at a club. This other person is like, what have you done? You haven't done anything wrong. It's a cool story. It's a lot more interesting of a song than just like, oh, I'm in love, oh, I'm not in love, oh, they don't love me, blah, blah, blah. Not that there's anything wrong with that. We just have already heard like solid 6 songs from Jorja on love. So this is interesting, and the production's really good too. Like there's a significant difference in the production here compared to the other tracks. It sounds better. I think it's an 80s almost like infomercial sound or 80s kid TV show, you know what I mean? Like dun 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 dun. It was infectious and catchy and interesting, and it matched the vibe of the song, like the somber vibe. Let's move on to the next one, Lifeboats Freestyle.
And it all falls down.
Someone likes Kanye.
And sometimes you gotta take the plunge just to get in. Life's not full of shallow and your house ain't full of armbands. Seen all my brothers drowning even though they knit the boat. Mothership ain't helping anyone. Jacket. Majority might fall with the tax brackets. The minority might jump to the next bracket.
So that was Lifeboats Freestyle, produced by Tom Misch. I like this song a lot more than I expected to, just because I was a little hesitant about the freestyle. But we heard in Blue Lights that Jorja Smith can rap, and she can rap in this one too, and sing. There was this really good part where she was talking about greedy, wasteful men soaking kids within the lies before they even got to 10. She gets into like this singing part. I think it's during the life jackets. I was like, whoa, that was really good, that transition into singing. Jorja Smith recognizes that she's trying to help. I think with this album, she's trying to help people that are lost. So she's talking about how if I saw somebody drowning in a sea of self-confusion, I want to be the one to try and understand why they're tiding coming in. So maybe I think with this album, she's trying to help other people who have been in a similar situation to her and how they might be able to deal with love. This song sounds like it was also written recently, because she also gets a little bit political during the second verse and explains why there's a difference between like the 99%, 1%, why is the majority failing when the minority is doing so well. When I'm talking about majority minority, I'm talking about in like a fiscal sense, in like a money sense. Like 1% of the people, the rich people, and 99% the poor. Maybe Lifeboat is the signifying how to get out of these difficulties that are the ocean, the sea of life. It was a good song, and I also really like the All Falls Down reference to Kanye West. But let's move on to the next song, Goodbyes.
But the bells will ring for you. This is real, 'cause they're never coming back down. The clouds, good coming back down. You belong to the stars and the clouds.
That was Goodbyes, produced by Jorja Smith and Ed Thomas. Obviously, it's Jorja Smith mourning the loss of a friend or family member who she wasn't able to be there in time to realize that it would be the last time that she would ever see them. It's a very melancholy track with Jorja, probably the best singing I've heard from Jorja on this album. It's very passionate, it's very emotional. I got goosebumps the entire time, like, what? I know the formula of like a somber singing vocalist with a guitar is Tired and True, but Jorja Smith's voice really just carries this song. Let's move on to the next song, Tomorrow.
I can't trust my words, accepting it's not my fault. So don't you wonder why I won't say goodbye. I won't even cry. Even night, I won't even cry. Why I can't sleep at night. I won't even cry. It will all make sense tomorrow.
So that was Tomorrow by Jorja Smith. I feel like this song she got everything that I felt was wrong with her last song, fixed it, and made a Jorja Smith song. This is her sound. Like, this is Jorja Smith. Like, I hear this and I know it's Jorja Smith, if that makes sense. The build-ups are there, her voice is there, the amazing like high notes are there, the first line of the chorus gave me goosebumps every time. Her voice alone can do that. Like, I haven't gotten that many goosebumps consecutively, as you've seen in this video, in a while. Like, I have my gripes with her and I'll address them at the end, but like, you cannot deny that Jorja has a fucking voice. Like, damn. And so she's talking almost like she's a little hot-headed in an old relationship is what it sounds like in this song. And she says struggling to like say goodbye to them, and she just doesn't really care about them. I don't know. I'm not sure. I was more enamored with the vocals than I was with the songwriting, but the songwriting itself is still there. Like, you've shown me there's flaws in Blue Skies. Like, it's still there, but sonically alone, it's enough for me to like tune in, pay attention to this song. Let's move on to the next song, Don't Watch Me Cry.
Now I'm left trying to rewind the times you held and kissed me then. I'm not crying 'cause you left me with the warning. Moments in time, don't watch me cry. I'm not.
So that was Don't Watch Me Cry, produced by Jorja Smith and Engine Ears. It was an okay song. It definitely was. I feel like it wasn't as memorable for me just because for me this sounds like Adele songwriting. This sounds like typical almost attempt at heartbreak. When you go into like heartbreak standard, especially with a very Adele sounding instrumental, you can't help but compare the two and realize that you might get compared, or you might just like fall into that crowd where I'd rather listen to an Adele song than something like this, just because although Jorja Smith is a fantastic singer, songwriting in this case isn't quite as strong. And I feel like you can just tell with this song. Like, I can understand it evokes that emotion of heartbreak, and when someone doesn't care about you and you really want them to care about you and you want to know what they're thinking and everything. However, there have been so many songs of it before, and this sounds the lyrics just sound very run-of-the-mill that it just kind of like is there for me. It's okay. So Jorja Smith, Lost and Found. What did I think? So whenever I score an album, I do it just based off of a feeling that I feel, and literally like I add up what I score each individual song and then divide it by like 10, you know what I mean? Fun fact, if you're watching this right now. Just based off of how I add everything up, I felt and got exactly what I felt. You know what I mean? Mathematically and feeling wise. So I'm going to give this album a 6. Let me explain why. So Jorja Smith, it is undeniable that her voice is fantastic. It's amazing. I get goosebumps. I want to see her live. Like, I want to hear her sing live. Because just from like listening to this and just from seeing her covers and everything, you can't deny it. She's got a fucking voice. But, big but, the first couple of songs, like the first 6 songs, I got so tired about hearing about love, 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 love. But can you blame her? She's only 21. And I feel like a lot of people are infatuated with the idea of love, think about the idea of love, and find ourselves in like our first loves at around this time. So I'll give her a pass for that, but the subject matter gets redundant. The first time I was kind of like, whoa, we're talking about something new here, was Blue Lights, and like this last half of the song. She was talking about the whole cop situation, Blue Lights, how people are going through difficulties in life other than love. And then she was talking about saying goodbye to someone that she lost, that she didn't expect she would have to say goodbye to. And then she went back into the theme of love. She talked about how she wrote some of these songs, wrote some of these songs when she was younger. And I think it shows sometimes because the songwriting's so drastically different in different songs that you can tell. So it causes like a difference in quality. And also when it came to her instrumentals, some of them just were Amy Winehouse with a guitar, that's what I got. Adele on a piano. And then some of her other songs just felt, when have we not heard a vocalist talk about love like this, but better on their debut album? I think Jorja Smith does a good job at telling people that love isn't all it's cracked up to be. However, some of it just falls short for me. Instrumentally, I feel like she still hasn't found her sound yet, because there are a couple of clunky chorus transitions, and a couple of just run-of-the-mill instrumentals that I can't tell what a Jorja Smith sound is just yet. The vibe I got for a real Jorja Smith song, a real song that it feels like uniquely her sound, uniquely showing off her strengths, was Tomorrow. I want to hear more like that. I want to hear more of Jorja Smith's sounds. But I'll end this with giving you the best tracks and the worst tracks. So best tracks for me, February 3rd, Blue Lights, and Tomorrow. Those are the best tracks. All the other songs had good things going on for them. The worst songs easily, I think, were On Your Own and Don't Watch Me Cry were probably the worst songs. And just Wandering Romance a little bit, just because it felt like, oh, we're back to love again, Jorja. Like, eh. Otherwise, I'll give Jorja this. She is 21 and she made an album all by herself. She can fucking sing. She can out-sing people that have been in the industry longer than she has. Hands down, easily. Easily. No problem. I am in no way trying to diss Jorja Smith or trying to say I don't like Jorja Smith. I just think she has time to grow, time to find her sound in nothing but. These are just gripes I have. Other than that, Jorja Smith is someone to watch out for. Jorja Smith is someone you want featured on your album, and Jorja Smith, I think, has a long and fruitful career ahead of her. Lost and Found by Jorja Smith. I hope you enjoyed the review. I've been meaning to get this out for a long time. I just had a lot of things going on at the time when it came out, and I've had people telling me to review it, and I finally got around to it, and I'm trying to get this out as quickly as I can, but with quality. So again, I appreciate all of you for watching. I hit 100 subscribers. It sounds very small, especially in the scope of like the YouTube landscape today, but for me, it's almost unreal just because I didn't expect to have like 100 subscribers, and I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful if you're watching, thankful if you've seen my goofy dancing, and I really appreciate it. And if Jorja Smith watched this, 10 out of 10 voice. Easily. Like, you can tell just by the goosebumps. I hope all of you have a fantastic day. I'll have another video up soon. Thanks for watching.